When you think about rare Pokemon, what comes to mind? Is it a crazy wild spawn like a Charizard? Is it a Galarian bird on your daily incense? What about a shiny Dynamax Charmander? Odds are it completely depends on when the last time you logged into play was. Because rarity in Pokemon GO has had so many meanings over the past 8 years. When it first launched back in 2016, there wasn't much to find. No shinies, no raids, no legendaries, just pure plain and simple Generation 1 Pokemon. Now, modern players wouldn't consider anything that spawned at the time rare at all. But those of us who played in 2016 would literally sprint for certain spawns because they were so hard to find.
No, around the corner, it's right over here. Yeah, look at the mob, goddamn. All right, oh my God, there it is. Okay, we found the second Dragonite of the night.
Back in my day, rarity meant one of two things. Either a fully evolved Pokemon spawn or a super rare Pokemon you never see. Evolved spawns like Dragonite, Gyarados, Charizard would occasionally spawn at places like the Santa Monica Pier. And literally hundreds of people would be there waiting for someone to yell, Dragonite! Then the herd would move towards the spawn. It was madness, and easily some of the craziest memories I have playing the game. The other version of rare were the super hard to find Pokemon like Dratini, Snorlax, Chansey, Aerodactyl, Porygon. If you saw any of these on your nearby, you'd immediately stop what you were doing and run. Other Pokemon like Vulpix, Grimer, Tangela were also considered like super extremely rare back in the day, which is wild because now they spawn all the time. Like those are not rare Pokemon now. And that was where the concept of rarity started in Pokemon GO. From there, it would evolve fast. Because in February of 2017, Generation 2 was released in full in the wild, excluding legendaries. And I found one of the rarest spawns on the first day.
Brandon, what? Oh my gosh, where's that? We're running. Look what's on the nearby. We have speaking of Typhlosion, Jonathan, we gotta cross the street. There's a busy street right here. We're about to jaywalk this, bro. It's worth it. If I get hit by a car, it's okay. It's on camera.
I just started sprinting. Oh.
We got a Typhlosion, but we got the Typhlosion right here. Yo, look how juicy he is. And a freaking Typhlosion right now, bro.
Now, this wasn't the rarest, though. With Generation 2 came one of the most exclusive wild spawns in the game's history, Unknown, which is still the rarest wild spawn you could ever find 8 years later. 1 month later, the game and the perception of rarity in Pokemon GO would be changed forever, all due to one single Pokemon. March of 2017 saw the release of the world's first shiny Pokemon, Magikarp, and it was the only thing everyone in the world wanted.
Oh yes! Is it really? Oh yes! Oh my God, okay, let me find someone. No way, yo! Oh my God!
Gone were the days of running for a wild Dragonite, shinies were here. Several months later, in the summer of 2017, after a completely botched Pokemon GO fest, legendary Pokemon were released for the first time ever in Chicago, which also quickly became some of the rarest and most sought after catches. Why look for rare wild spawns when you could find legendaries in a raid? This became the new standard for hardcore grinders looking to fill their accounts with big catches, and this is also around the same time that meta relevancy and IVs became really important. Because of legendaries, raids were starting to get really hard to complete. So building teams of strong and useful Pokemon became more important than ever. Not only were shiny Pokemon now considered rare, but so were the very useful Pokemon with high IVs. Hard to find, hard to get, but necessary if you wanted to take down a lot of raids quickly. And speaking of raids, one more massive legendary release would happen this year, Mewtwo. In August of 2017, Mewtwo made its debut at an exclusive event in Japan. It was then released worldwide through an old feature called EX Raids, and everyone was looking to get their own. Then in 2018, we saw a brand new rarity tier concept come to Pokemon GO that people still spend hundreds of dollars trying to get today, including myself, costume shiny Pokemon. The first one ever was released in February 2018 during the Pokemon Day celebration event. It was actually 3. Party had Pichu, Pikachu, and Raichu. Which reminds me, shiny baby Pokemon were kind of their own rarity tier all by themselves just because they were so hard to get. So to get a costume shiny Pokemon was ridiculous, but a costume shiny baby, insane. And this is a trend you're gonna notice as we look at how Pokemon GO rarity evolved. Pokemon GO stacks layers of rarity on top of each other. So regular Pokemon were rare, then shiny Pokemon, which were a variation of the regular ones, then shiny costume Pokemon. So even though at this point, shiny Pokemon were still super rare and hard to come by, costume shinies were now the pinnacle of Pokemon GO collecting. Then in March of 2018, the first ever shiny legendary was released, which wasn't as rare as costume shinies, but far more useful. These sparkly legendaries would become the new target of all hardcore players, since legendary raids gave so much XP. Also at the time, shundos were beginning to get popularized, which were shiny 100% IV Pokemon. They did exist in the past, but with raids giving boosted IVs and shiny rates, they became slightly easier to find. This year would also see one more major new rarity release, mythical Pokemon, starting with Mew in March, then Celebi during Pokemon Go Fest season.
This is it. This is no way. Here we go. We got Mew. Oh my gosh. Okay, Mew is now invisible. Okay, we have to AR plus this for sure.
These were especially rare because, unlike legendaries and raids, these were only available in exclusive special research, and everyone was only able to encounter one single mythical. You could have 10 shiny Lugia, but no matter how much you played, you could only get one Mew. And this is where the game would exist for the next couple of years, with the rarest things that you could get between 2019 and 2022 being costume shinies, shundos, legendaries, mythicals. And there was one sort of exception in 2020 when clone Pokemon were released for the first time, but they don't really count because they didn't stay in the game and only came back once after that. Although they are some of the rarest Pokemon ever released, so if you're lucky enough to have some, great job. Although technically no new rarity category came out during this couple years span, there were some really rare releases, like Armored Mewtwo in 2019, which was the first ever costume legendary Pokemon ever released, but at the time, many people didn't prioritize catching it. It couldn't be shiny, the costume looked kinda weird, and it was less useful than normal Mewtwo. But once it left after the second time around, it never came back, and most people still don't have one. Detective Pikachu released in May of 2019 for the first time, and it created one of the rarest Pokemon in history. It couldn't be shiny, but some 5-head players saved their field research tasks and claimed them after the event ended when Shiny Pikachu was turned back on. Shiny Mew, the world's first shiny mythical, released in February of 2021, which I guess does qualify as a brand new rarity tier. So that's technically the only new rarity tier in this 3-year period. But it was a big one. Players could only get Shiny Mew if they purchased the Kanto Tour ticket, then they had to complete one of the hardest research storylines ever. You needed to hit level 40, earn a platinum Kanto medal, and walk 151 kilometers and more. But once you did, you got your shiny. In December of 2022, Keldeo was released, but you could only get it if you paid $8 for the timed research, which I did. Shiny Pikachu Libre released exclusively in the Go Battle League in 2020 and still is one of the hardest costume shinies to get. I still don't have mine. And in July of 2022, the Daily Incense came to the game for the first time, and with it, the Galarian Legendary Birds, which everyone went crazy for trying to find and even harder to catch. They had incredibly low spawn rates and would typically run after the first ball, so getting one in your account at the time was easily the coolest thing you could catch. Fast forward to 2023 and we finally see a brand new rarity tier introduced into Pokemon Go. During the Las Vegas Hoenn Tour in February of 2023, players were able to catch legendary Kyogre and Groudon with an exclusive location catch card background, which was basically an image depicting Las Vegas behind the Pokemon in a player's inventory. You could only get this if you went to Las Vegas during this specific event, which made it extremely rare globally, and even more rare was getting the shiny. Going back to the concept of layering rarity, legendary into shiny legendary into catch card shiny legendary. This was the new obsession of tons of players, including all of the hardcore community. The next catch cards released during the Pokemon Go Fest with a handful of legendaries, then in the new City Safari event with the Safari Hat Eevee. Players went crazy for these catch cards, and it was very obvious to Niantic that it was working. A new rarity tier had been born after 4 years of the same chases, and they were gonna lean into it hard, which is exactly what happened in 2024. So far this year, there have been 58 unique Pokemon location card combinations across 17 different events, including some newer backgrounds that don't have anything to do with the location. This new variation of the rarity tier is called a special background and can be seen on Pokemon like Solgaleo and Lunala that were released during Pokemon Go Fest Global, which is now technically the newest version of the rarest thing you could get in-game. A shiny, legendary, special background Pokemon, or a shiny costume special background Pokemon. And you could trade these, so technically they can be lucky. And they technically can go Shundo, which means they can be a shiny and 100%. So a shiny 100% lucky legendary catch card background Pokemon. And that's not the only new thing. Remember the Galarian birds in the Daily Incense? They can be shiny now, which has become another huge rarity chase in the game. Crazy to think that this all started running for Wild Dragonite and Porygon. And who knows what the rarest thing you could get in Pokemon Go will be years from now. All I know is I will make a video on it, so make sure you're subscribed and check out these other videos because they're amazing. I'll see you in there.